What's up, money? Moicano here, and today I'm going to talk about UFC Fight Night France. It's going down this Saturday, and I don't recommend you to bet, I never recommend you to bet, but if you do, wagernation.com. Stay tuned. Let me tell you something, my brother. Let me tell you something. This is one of the worst cards ever, my brother. The level of disrespect to have a main event, Gane and Sergey Spivak, is unbelievable. Is unimaginable, my brother. Gane, very good fighter, very good kickboxer. Lost to John Jones and Francis Ngannou. Beat Tuivasa, Derek Lewis, Volkov, and Jairzinho Rosenstruck, Júnior dos Santos, Tony Bowser, Dontae O'Males, Rafael Pessoa. So, motherfucker has more wins on the UFC than outside UFC. And everybody knew since the beginning he was a good striker. But, in the other hand, we have Sergey Spivak. And he beat likes of Greg Hardy, Augusto Sakai, and an arm triangle choke against Derek Lewis. That's surprise. Okay, but he lost to Tony Aspinall and Massi Tibura. This is a very hard fight to pick, my brother. I'm going to talk about the card, but one thing is for sure. Don't bet on this card, brother. Don't bet on this card. This card is one of the terribles to bet. But if you do, please consider using the sponsor of the channel, Wager Nation. The link is on the description. Okay, let's go. That being said, the only fight that I'm really interested in is Benoit Saint-Denis against Thiago Moises. Benoit Saint-Denis is a Frenchman. So, Benoit Saint-Denis, 27 years old, 155. This guy, he used to be 170. And he went to the UFC and he realized that UFC is another world, my brother. Another world. You know what I mean? But he had a very tough fight against Eliseu Zaleski, Eliseu Capoeira, the Brazilian. And he beat Nicholas Stolz and Gabriel Miranda and Ismael Bofin. Gabriel Miranda and Nicholas Stolz, not very well known in UFC. I think Gabriel Miranda has only one fight he took on short notice on new UFC. And I'm not sure who Nicholas Stolz is. But that being said, he beat Ismael Bonfim and he was the underdog of that fight. You know what I mean? Everybody was counting him out, Benoit Saint-Denis, but I told you on the channel, if you guys remember, man, that fight against Bonfim was not to be. The odds were wrong because Benoit Saint-Denis is a specialist in jiu-jitsu and he's tough. I would not say his best attribute is his striking. I think his best attribute is his toughness. I remember watching live Eliseu Zaleski against him in 170 and he survived a very, very tough fight. You know, it was a unanimous decision and he went to 3 rounds against a bigger guy, more experienced guy, and you could see that he was tough. So he went down in the division and now he is 155 and he's finding some success. And I think UFC realized that, and that's why they are giving him that spot in UFC France. If I'm not mistaken, no, this is not the co-main event, but this is one fight before the co-main event, and that's a very good place in the card. And he's fighting my friend, my brother, Thiago Moises, 17-6. He beat Melquizael Costa and Krista Giago and lost to Alvarez and Makachev. He beat Hernandez, Bobby Green, Michael Johnson, and he lost to Benil Dariush on his debut in UFC. Let's talk about the fight. Thiago Moises is a guy that uses a lot. He's very good in his jiu-jitsu. You know, he has a lot of submissions, and he is a decent striker. He's not a bad striker, but I think his best attribute is the ground, and he has been working a lot on his takedowns. We could see the difference when he fought Krista Giagos and Melquizael Costa. The adjustments on the takedowns and on controlling and this and that. But that's a very hard fight to pick because Benoit Saint-Denis is tough. He's fighting in France, you know, and that's why he is the favorite. But I like Thiago Moises as the underdog on the fight, and I'm going with Thiago Moises. But clearly, I am biased on that because he's my friend, and I want him to win. You know, even though I think he has chances to win, and I will pick him to win. Don't bet on the fight because that's going to be a hard fight for both. You know, Thiago more experience, more, I would say, well-rounded, even though Benoit Saint-Denis is a good striker, good kicker, and he had a beautiful gameplay against the other Brazilian Ismael, but I don't know, I see Thiago Moises beating him in a decision. It will be very hard to get a finish against Benoit Saint-Denis, but remember, I definitely could be biased on that because he's my friend, you know. And I just think Thiago Moises faced the better competition in the UFC, but Saint-Denis is legit, you know. And I think UFC wants him to win, to be honest with you, because he's like 11-1, and he's kind of a new face to the game, especially to the European fans, to the French motherfuckers. And I think Thiago Moises is just a Brazilian, and like me and like other Brazilian, UFC has a lot of Brazilians. So I think it's better for the UFC if the French fighter wins. But I want Thiago Moises to beat the shit out of him, you know, and make a statement. But it's a tough fight for both, okay? And we're going to see. After that, we have Manon Fiorot versus Rose Namajunas. Manon Fiorot is a good fighter. Rose Namajunas is a former champion, but it's tough to beat the French girl. She's 33 and she's coming off 8 losses streak, my brother. That's a lot, especially in the UFC. How many fights does she have in UFC? She has 5 fights in UFC, and she beat Tabata Ricci, the Brazilian girl, Mara Bueno, and Jennifer Maia, 3 Brazilian girls, in Kathleen Chokagian. Very tough competition. She beat very tough competition, and she's going to find a tough competition on Rose Namajunas. But I think the moment is for Fiorot, and I think the French girl will win that one, okay? And we have Cyril Gane and Sergey Spivak. Cyril Gane, he's the better striker. Man, I think, especially in French, he's not going to lose that fight. He probably worked on his takedown defense, on his ground game, because his last fight against John Jones was kind of embarrassing. You know, John Jones easily took him down and choked him out in 2 minutes of the first round. And I feel that's a recover fight for Cyril Gane, because I don't see UFC trying to make Sergey Spivak fight for the belt or something like that. The guy doesn't have that fan base, you know. He's from Moldova. I don't know, small country in Europe. I don't know how much UFC wants to push this guy to win. So just because of that, I'm going with Cyril Gane. He's the favorite and he's fighting France. And other than that, I will be honest with you, I don't see any fight that I want to see a lot, my brother. So my picks, it's going to be Cyril Gane, Manon Fiorot, and Thiago Moises. But man, be careful. If you are a degenerate gambler, don't gamble. If you do, use Wager Nation, you know, and it is what it is. Not a great UFC, and that's what we have for next Saturday. Remember, even though it's not a great card, it's better than UFC Singapore that was in the morning. I only watched a couple fights. I had training, and that one I will be watching, okay? And we're going live almost every day, so show your support to the channel. Leave the commentary and the algorithm to help the channel. That's very important, my friend. That's very important. We have the Discord, we have Patreon, we have everything, my brother. Just support the channel. Peace out.